Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Expanded Understanding. I'm Zach, and Aaron's here with me, and here we are. It's good to see all of you tonight. Aaron, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well, I suppose. I've been having more fun over recent days than before, so
Nice.
that's always good.
What sort of fun?
Various things like with video games, just having funner conversations with people. A couple various things like kind of piqued my mind in terms of learning. I don't
Mm.
really remember what they were at this moment, but nevertheless, just kind of
Which
random
which
stuff being funner.
which video games?
There's a new game that was created that's a skateboarding game, and like the cool thing about it needs a lot of development still, but the cool thing about it is that like each analog stick controls a foot, so in a certain way you feel like you're actually like doing tricks on purpose. You know what I
Huh.
mean? Because like the
Yeah,
same
yeah.
methodology that works with your feet on a skateboard,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
like if I've never talked
Totally.
about it on here, I skateboarded for a really long time, took it super serious, and it was big thing for me. So like it
Yeah.
actually kind of like in a certain way kind of feels like you're doing the tricks with your hand, much more so than like a Tony Hawk Pro Skater or this kind of the same
Yeah, yeah.
methodology that they always have, which is direction plus button equals
Right.
trick. In this, you
Right.
like actually feel like you're moving your feet, and there's ways that you can make it so that like you only catch it with one foot and things like this. And I'm hoping that they end up adding to the point of like I don't know how much you know about skateboarding, but there's a guy named Chris Haslam that does all kinds of these crazy tricks where basically he'll do a flip trick and then end up catching it with his feet in the air and spinning it a different direction. And then those
Mm.
also have like body spins in with them and shit. And like those tricks are super
Cool.
fucking cool. And it would be really cool to be able to like basically make those up in a video
Oh
game
shit.
because they're all about just like, I mean, it's all basically like flip trick, late flip trick, but that's like so fucking hard to do on a skateboard. I mean, like at even the best point of my skateboarding, I was at a point where I was trying to incorporate like stuff like that, and it
Mm.
was just so hard. And I had already like, there was a lot of layers and levels that I had already gone through, and still this shit was like, fuck, this might be impossible. Like
Yeah.
try
That's
it,
funny.
try 1,000 times, and you're still not even close to landing one. You know what I
I
mean?
know I know enough about skateboarding to know like I learned how to ollie. I remember
Mm-hmm.
learning the grass initially, right? And I don't think I did much beyond that, but I remember the mechanics of what it takes to do a kickflip, right? So what you're saying about the joysticks totally makes sense to me, where you'd have to slide forward and whatever, and maybe pressure too, and then push forward or into flip, pull back on the back leg or whatever, and to actually get your feet to do with the board. That's an awesome idea. That totally makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually into what's this? Is this a game?
I'm sharing a Chris Haslam video on here, so if
Oh,
other
cool,
people want to like look at it and see look at this weird shit that he does, dude.
cool.
Like no one does that stuff on
Yeah,
skateboards.
no
It's so
shit.
cool. But like nevertheless, I really hope that they like kind of take it to the level where you're able to kind of work stuff like this where you're
Yeah.
doing like these weird like late flips, or maybe even finding some way that like I can hold a button down and then I can use my right hand and my left hand to instead do finger flips. Or like right now
Yeah.
there's really basic grab system where basically you're either like front side grabbing or back side grabbing, but it'd be cool if you
Mm.
could like literally control the hands if you were so inclined. And but
Yeah. Yeah, it's
I
a
talk like when we
so
were playing Tony Hawk like crazy back in the day. I like used to talk about it, and several of my other friends talked about it too. Like the idea that it would be so cool if you could control both your feet with the analog sticks, and it like I mean we're fucking nearly 20 years later now before it actually ever exists. And I think we were kind of limited by technology in a lot of ways at that point in time,
uh,
but just like it's pretty cool feeling to play the game. That's like brand new today, and is like as they kind of do with games now, like shit comes out way before it really probably should come out. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like
Yeah, sure.
it's just
Yeah, underdeveloped.
functional enough,
Yeah.
and that's basically where this game is right now. Like it
Yeah.
has all like the core functionality, but there's like besides just like doing some tricks and skating some shit, there's no extra reason to play the game. There's no like
Yeah.
real like progression system, or there's no multiplayer inside of it or anything like that.
Mm.
Like they have the basis for some cool stuff, like the
Cool.
ability for the community to make maps, and like a really like complex replay system where you can move the camera like all over the place and set it up
Nice.
stable and twist it and slow mo it and set the depth of field and like get like an actual like good quality filming of your replay. of
Yeah.
like the tricks or line that you just did. So I can definitely see like some possibility for them basically having like, well, it's basically a community skate competition. And even if they don't have multiplayer built into it, they basically have some way of, well, here's a potential idea. Like inside of skate videos, there's a lot of places that you consistently see inside of those. So like this ledge right here, right?
Yeah.
So for instance, they could build a map that had this ledge inside of it, and then the goal of the thing was for you to basically like create a skater that looked like a skater that was on a video part doing a trick on that ledge and recreate the trick as true to the video as
Huh.
life. And then people
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
vote on like the similarity of the two of them. You could have them like split screened while you're watching them, the real thing and the
Yeah.
video
No
game.
shit. That's
And I
cool.
think like
Yeah.
that would be a cool way to kind of draw some attention to it. And also like they already have the space because you're able to like determine like what clothes you're wearing, what board you're skating, what wheels you got, all this shit.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
a big space for basically sponsors to buy in the space and be able to have their shit inside of it. And
Yeah.
I mean, I think like a lot of it you could do with like even making these be like unlockables or things that you could buy through microtransactions, like microtransaction cases that opened
Sure.
up apparel, hairstyles,
Mhm.
shit like this. Like, I mean, I
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
rather they aren't microtransactions for my own sake because I ain't gonna buy none of
Right.
that shit. But if
Yeah.
they want to
Yeah.
make money from a business sense, they should make
What
this like a
what sucks
microtransaction
what
kind of
sucks
thing.
about that, because it is so profitable, they've switched. It was fine when like you could buy your way ahead in the game, but you also could get there without it. And then they make all
Sure.
the games where you literally are not going to get very far unless you start spending money, and that sucks. I mean, I get it's
There's
business, like it's lucrative, but it's like, come on, it
there's
almost makes it
definitely some
impossible.
fucking pay to win games out there. A lot of them
Yeah.
are on your phone. You know, like the
Yeah,
phone
yeah.
market is big about that. Like
Yeah.
there's I've played some of these stupid phone games that like there's really no reason for anybody ever to play it. But like
Right.
then you'll be playing it and there's some guy on the server that's clearly spent like $4,000 on this and it's like
Yep.
what the fuck, like I don't even feel like I should be playing this game, let alone
Yep.
how you like, and you fucking bought us an affordable car to play this game, you know what I mean? It's fucking crazy. So
Yeah.
I don't know, that skate game's pretty cool though. It runs pretty good. I mean, it has its little jitters of that you're gonna have with any physics system where you're like, yeah, if you run into stuff and you fall over for weird reasons, and there's
Yeah, yeah.
little shit like that to work out, but it's definitely got potential. And then there's like a, so I've always been really interested in these like,
So,
I
hold
don't
on.
know what to
So
call
Kevin
them
Kevin said I quit when I realized how bad I could fuck up my hands, because I did, and that was it. Yeah, on skateboarding.
with skateboarding. Yeah, I was
Yeah,
just
that's why you
saying
gotta
to
wear the wrist
Jen,
guards, bro. Where
I was
you gotta
just
wear
saying
elbow
to Jen
pads.
today, like I wish I could still skateboard, but I just don't have an interest to take on that again because I know that like if I take it seriously, it's every fucking day you're injured. Like there's never
Yeah.
a day where you're not injured.
Dude,
So,
I was really into aggressive inlining. I did that for several years. So that's why I
yeah.
did skateboarding a little bit in the same way I've like I haven't even, I think I skied once, just one time, but I snowboarded for years and years and years. I just kind of wanted to try the other thing. So skateboarded a little, but I never went to the skate parks with skateboarding, but I did with inlining. And that was a
Hmm.
blast, man. I really enjoyed doing that. I mean, very similar because I was becoming really popular. What that was late '90s. I was doing that
Yeah.
early 2000s. Yeah, going
Yeah,
to the skate park in Bellevue down here, the big indoor skate park.
the
Had
mindset's
a
really
giant,
similar if you're taking it seriously. The
yeah,
serious
aggressive
skateboarder and the
inlining.
serious inline skater are a very similar mindset in my
Yeah.
experience.
That was a fun period, man. Just that culture, all that whole dynamic was fucking rad, man. I mean, 'cause it's funny because the muscle memory, right? Because I know exactly what it feels like. Because I've gone in the last, I don't know, 5 years or so. I went again. I hadn't done that in like 15 years. And in the last 5 years, went to skate park with a buddy of mine who used to do aggressive inlining, like make money doing it. Never got super big or TV big, but he was really, really into it. And went with him and his kids to the skate park and got my skates out of the my dude, would even call them skates? I don't remember. Whatever, rollerblades. I don't
My
call them
blades,
my
my
blades, my
blades,
K2s.
bro.
I think they were K2s. Fuck, man. And then I grabbed my storage and went to the skate park, and I was able to do it. Like the muscle memory was there. I mean, I think I maybe did I fall maybe once, but it wasn't a very big skate park. Like 4 foot quarter pipes and like different shit. But it was just the muscle memory of knowing like you have to trust yourself to lean almost like because your body would freak out if you haven't learned to like lean forward into the ramp. You think you're gonna go face
Hmm.
into the concrete. You're not. You're gonna drop in, but like all that little shit just comes back when you get back into the environment or whatever.
Yeah, I took out the inlining for a short period of time, but serious enough that I had like grind plates on my fucking
Yeah.
skates, and I had like
Yep.
actual skates for fucking doing tricks, and
Yep.
little tiny trick wheels and all this shit.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah, and you
like
had to have the
I had a
smaller
lot
wheels
of
so you could
that.
grind the rails too, or at least the
Yeah.
small. I had two small inner wheels. I think that's what it was. I tried that for a little bit. Tried
Uh,
to do a lot of different wheel combos, different bearings. You can do all that shit.
yeah.
I was bragging about the different bearings they just got, and fucking, it's cool,
Yeah.
man. That was
I
fun.
had a lot of already body memory from years and years and years of skateboarding, so it came to me like pretty quick. But
Totally.
yeah. Anyways, so basically, like stuff like that's fun. I've
Yeah.
been learning a lot about financial investment over the
Ooh, do
last like two
tell.
weeks. So I
We have
mean,
a
I don't know where
captivated
to say
audience.
like do tell. You know what I mean? I don't.
Yeah.
There's not like you just
Well,
suddenly
okay.
start
Let's start
rambling
start
off
with start with
financials.
start with the higher level aspects then of why that's enjoyable to you, because you just put that in that category. So not necessarily the minutia of what you're doing, but the what you find enjoyable about it or thought
I
provoking.
just like understanding like systems, ordered systems. I like analyzing systems and understanding how they
Hmm.
work. And I mean, understanding any type of investment markets or futures markets can be a very lucrative thing to know about. So that's probably a good idea for some point in time in my life.
Yeah,
I
you
don't
can
really
find it
like to do a
enjoyable.
whole lot of work. So I kind of need to look towards things that are very efficient for making money because, quite honestly, I ain't really about that like working life. So,
Yeah, no, well, no shit, and that's the whole. So passive income, right? Making money while you sleep, setting up systems or investments or some dynamic that you are making money while you sleep. And then
yeah.
when your passive income exceeds your expenses, that's when you made it out of the rat race. So then
Right.
that's the balance.
You're definitely chilling at that point in time. I chose to bail out of the
Yeah.
rat race well before that point, but
But the rat race of feeling like you have to make the next paycheck,
sure.
have to make the next paycheck, have to make the next paycheck, just that
Yeah,
dynamic,
I mean, I think that's a good rule of thumb to use a misogynist term. That I think
yeah.
that's a good way of going about it for the standard individual. I was pretty.
Mm,
I don't think I was ever really part of society, so it wasn't really
mm.
like getting out of the rat race. It was more like just never joining it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So not like they're
So
necessarily
it
nine to
was a little
five,
different.
white collar tie in a cubicle, but yeah, just the dynamic of. I mean, how have you
Sure.
gone? I mean, just people maybe having different periods of their life where you're in a good job or a career or just a really good job or something, and you're not worrying paycheck to paycheck. You have a lot of money in the bank. You have enough money. Your money's exceeding your expenses, and so it just relieves a whole underlying level of the pyramid of anxiety or stress when that can be established in your life, especially if it's something you put there by your own two hands. I mean, that's even more rewarding.
Yeah. People definitely worry about money. That's the thing that happens.
Oh shit.
There's
You
no
know,
doubt about that.
yeah, I think that number one, I don't remember what study I was reading a while back or whatever, but the number one problem in marriage or number one reasons for divorce, they're listing down to all these psychology studies and different things or whatever, and interviews. And the number one reason is lack of communication or poor communication. And the number two is financial difficulties, which really, I mean, it's not that you can't make it through financial difficulties, but if you already have a lack of communication, then the stress that's added on from always stressing about money or the financials, then that just becomes a compounding issue. But, it's right up there for stressors that break up relationships.
Yeah, if there's monetary stresses inside the relationship, there's a good chance it's gonna be a problem. So especially if the kid thing starts coming into the
No
equation,
shit,
I think a
man.
lot of people kind of underestimate the scope of that. They end up in a pregnancy situation. They feel like they're supposed to do that. The money's not right, and it's not gonna be right anytime soon. But they feel very obligated to go through with that, and they kind of
Right?
underestimate the enormous amount of stress that's gonna come from not having the fucking money to do that. You know, and feeling like you
Right?
have to get it done. And this is a touchy situation. I mean,
Yeah.
so
I mean,
everybody's got
it
their
can't be,
own
but
take
just,
on what you should do about that situation and whether or
right.
not you should be there. I mean, that's why people feel
Well,
so much
even
obligation about it.
it doesn't need to be touchy. That's just the reality of certain people's circumstances. So that's just a fact. So it makes sense that people would consider those other options or whatever their options are. You don't have to get into the minutia of like the morality of, abortion and dynamic, but it's understandable. I think people don't know enough. I think people, if you take too high of a view on things, right, then people don't really understand what it can be like for people in those situations because they're just like, oh, well, they could just do this. Like, dude, you don't fucking know. You don't know their life.
Yeah,
They could just do this. Like, it's a little too oversimplified. Sorry.
yeah, yeah. A lot of times people can't just do something that seems maybe very simple to you. Like if you don't have the right skill set, like well, one thing I was watching recently was this talk by an MIT professor that's on OpenCourseWare, and he always gave like an
Mm,
opening talk at MIT every year. That's basically like how to speak, and it's kind of goes over like a little bit more than that. It's a little broader than that. It was like he was a very long time professor at MIT. His name's Preston Winston, and he nevertheless like it's a really good talk. Probably everybody should watch it at some point in time in their life.
mm, mm,
And nevertheless, he talks about how in there really basically with like being able to do anything is really like a function of like KPT, right? Where like your your knowledge is really the biggest thing inside of that, and your talent is kind of the lowest thing inside of that, and then P is
mm.
really like practice, like your ability, your action, right? So your ability to actuate that, and practice determines your ability to actuate something consistently. So
Yep.
then his talk, he leads in with that in his talk, and then his talk aims to give you the knowledge because he has already kind of supplied the front end that shows you that the knowledge is significantly more important than the practice or the talent. And so then it digs into, how presentation. It's kind of would be better on like how to sculpt a presentation maybe than how to
Mm,
speak overall, but when he's talking about public speaking and how to like give a
mm.
presentation is what it's really about. And that's why it's kind of like a generalized lecture that people at MIT end up taking because like you're going to give a lot of presentations. So
Yeah.
everybody takes it. So it is really really good for like anyone honestly though. It has a lot of cool little tidbits inside of there. And I don't remember why I even brought that up. That's another like fun thing that I was learning about. I mean, I guess there's that
Yeah.
loose correlation. That's not the reason why I brought it up, but
I think
um,
it was. There's something else you've been into recently or been looking into or whatever. I've been watching a lot of comedy and a lot of comedians and interviews with comedians and different videos about certain comedians, not so much the art of comedy, but just by observing that from their own discussions and the way they are as people. And like Jeff Ross and Dave Attell, which Dave Attell's been around really well. They both have. Jeff Ross, I think, is one of the most famous for like roasting people. And the roasts, he's one of the ones who's consistently there for all like I don't know, dozens and dozens and dozens of roasts. And he's really good at it, man. He can be really, really raw in a way that it's just funny, and like, even in it's like in a really easily offended culture. Him and Andrew
mhm.
Schultz is another one, and I don't know, comedy's really fascinating. Like I was just watching one this afternoon here with Nate. Um, and the stuff it is funny. It's making fun of stereotypes and racism and racial things at different times, but in the right context. Just the whole comedian thing, the jester, like the ability for the comedian to bring the deepest, darkest, ugliest, fucked up truths. Like this is 11 months ago. He did a special, and so he's talking about the Epstein dynamic in this just open mic roasting audience or engaging with the audience thing. And he said one of the things he said was. Um, he's a part of our job as comedians. My job is as a comedian is take some of the most, find something that everybody has a clear opinion on and go, well, if you look at it this way, and
Yeah,
then just like bring a perspective that's funny or brings like darkness in a way that's like people kind of cringe, but you're able to talk about everything in comedy. It's like really, so if you do it right, there's nothing that's untouchable. Maybe too soon a little bit, but not really. If you can swing it right, it's like one of the only places that's it's a forum to communicate anything.
yeah. I mean, there has been repercussions to that occasionally
Oh
in
yeah,
time, but
like Lenny
it is
Bruce. I mean,
definitely
back in the day, that whole
a little bit
dynamic.
looser than anywhere else. That's for sure. You always
They,
got that like, oh, it's just a joke, dude. Like I don't even think that kind of cop out if you really want to take it too,
yeah.
if
Well,
you're
no,
doing
these
it
guys
as a
go the
comedian.
opposite direction. They start giving shit to the people that are getting offended, like some of the really good ones, and just going off. I'm like, ah, fuck you, and like they lay into it and just lay into the thing or the dynamic of the person, and sometimes in the way that it rolls it back around. I mean, the audience ends up kicking that person out, or just whatever. Or that person, like Andrew Schultz, is really good about it, about roping them in a way that even if they are really offended, sometimes he can bring it back and. But he says really offensive shit. So do these other guys, but they know it's joking, but it's in I don't know. It's in the right context. It's not. They're not just being assholes. They're being able to talk about these subjects in a way what makes everybody feel relaxed in a sense because you can talk about it and joke about it and you know the context in that
Sure.
dynamic. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I wonder if that's like with most comedians, if that's really like even on their agenda. Like that's a thing
Which
they're thinking
aspect?
about. They're like, oh, I'm going to be able to open a social dialogue by making people feel relaxed about touchy subjects and bring awareness to deeply rooted psychological issues that are permeating throughout systemic society.
Sure,
They're
it may not
probably
be in
not
their
even
mind
thinking
at
about
all,
that. They're
but just
probably like, this fucking joke's funny, and then they
well,
tell it.
right.
I mean,
Well,
it's an
but they
inevitable
do. That's
byproduct of the
but that's
space,
that's where you
but
hear like these interviews. You hear Rogan and Andrew Schultz on 3 Hour Deal, and you hear these other comedians. And they do talk about that. They understand the impact and the dynamic they're able to have as comedians. I mean, these are just in the conversations about understanding, comedy and comedians and experiences, and a lot of them, especially now, are seeing the value in being able to say this shit, especially in a what like the cancel culture. If you say something offensive, we will have you canceled, blacklisted, cancel all the shit. But being
mhm.
able to, and obviously there were venues, I think a lot of them talk about, they stopped doing universities. And there's some crazy stories about universities where they come shut them down because they're just offended, right?
Mhm.
Over just some certain stupid little things. So, but I don't know, YouTube's opened up a whole dynamic where it's not really about the venue. You're going to attract potentially millions of subscribers and followers if you have something funny to say.
Yeah, as long as you're not saying something YouTube doesn't like.
Well, that's true. Yeah, unless you're a bunch of fucking doctors, man. I mean, God forbid, don't put anything on YouTube and say something against the mainstream narrative. Jesus.
Yep,
That's a whole other
follow
thing
the
that's
money,
going on in
man.
reality right now.
Yeah,
It's
I
that,
think the
that
most interesting part of that is that we've just deviated funds from the Defense Protection Act to start the first nationalized pharmaceutical company in the history of the United States. So, like,
really.
how's everybody feel about that? That's interesting.
Well, I don't know if they start mass producing that Hydra whatever
That's exactly
drug
what they're
instead of
going to
a
be generating. They're going to be
well
generating
instead.
generic drug ingredients. They've been
I
given
don't plan on taking.
$795 million from the United States
Wait, so
government.
is that why things are so cheap? So it's going to be national cheap, so the corporations don't have the ability to just skyrocket their
Hydroxychloroquine is
profits.
already extremely cheap, anyways, but this move's
Yeah, yeah.
kind of out of left field. But
I know, but it says that taking power away from big pharma to be able to skyrocket their prices if you
you
have a
would
national price with the
you would
generics.
think, I mean, like they can't skyrocket a price of generic, anyways. Nobody has the patent. The only reason why these things get pushed up is because of patents, really.
Right.
So, uh, hydroxychloroquine is not patented, so anybody can produce it. But
Yeah.
like, if we are,
I'm saying
I
if
mean,
they're if,
from the spin of the
uh,
government side and deviating defense funds to it, an argument could be made if we do believe that our country is at risk from potential use of biological weapons that operate as a virus, then potentially something that has proven in other places to fight viruses would be something that we would put defense funds into. Okay? And it has
right.
proven effective against malaria in all kinds of countries, and malaria is extremely widespread. I mean, 2017, there's 220 million cases of malaria in the world. And so,
Hmm.
like, people are very worried about COVID or something. We realize, like, it doesn't even fucking come close to touching the numbers of malaria. Like, not even fucking
Right.
close. It's like 1/10 of malaria. So, nevertheless, uh, you know, yeah.
Well, so
Yeah,
if they're
hydroxychloroquine and other things like that have been used to treat that. The whole regimen of the HCQ, Zithromax, and zinc is kind of just like a natural. It's a way to alkalinize your body and cause a detox, pretty
yeah.
much. So,
Yeah. Well, I know. I mean, like they've talked about different dynamics too, but really the insane amount of COVID fear, as opposed to, or at least with, in a balanced addition to the just product, sort of like for marketing, if you will, for the promotion of natural health, like actually being naturally more healthy and the things that boost your immune system, and
right.
all these positive things. Like they barely touch on that shit at all, which is ironic. It's kind of like in most, I don't know if this is still true to this day, but up until very recent times, the average medical doctor would only have 3 hours of nutritional information about how the body
Mm,
actually works in health. And no understanding now, more so your gut microbiome more than anything else oftentimes has the most reflection over your health. I mean, over your mind, over matter, those dynamics too. But if we're going to practical physiological level, your gut microbiome produces all many of the chemicals and things in your brain and all that other shit.
yeah.
And so but I mean, if the government's going to make or whatever, I don't plan on taking any drugs at this point. I don't see any reason to. I'm sure as hell I'm not taking a vaccine, that's for sure. But there's plenty of supplements and other things that do heal my body before I ever take that kind of stuff. But I'd much rather have the government producing that hydroclox or whatever. Kind of funny. What's abbreviation for it? Because I'm not going to get that right.
HCQ.
All right, HCQ. Yeah, that works. than as opposed to them producing vaccines. And ideally, it doesn't go that direction, but it seems like Trump's opposed to nationalizing or requiring vaccines. So if the government's producing some other drug people can take instead and have an option, that at least postpones or puts off the likelihood of a nationalized vaccine requirement.
Yeah, I mean the QAnon group has a whole delta lined out with this move that would tell you that like it's this big play to make it so that vaccines are completely unnecessary.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's
I hadn't
their
heard that. I was just
angle.
thinking
I
logically.
don't,
Yeah.
that's what they think is the angle basically.
Yeah.
So
I
if
would hope so, because if not, everything else is going according to the playbook, man. I mean, we already have to wear masks to buy food most places. And we're already getting moral shame if you're not wearing a mask, to an extreme, absurd outrage. So if vaccines come next, they're just gonna be like, well, now you should. Why don't you just have your vaccine? Or sucks for you. I guess you can't buy it from the store because you don't have your vaccine. I mean, that's when the big splits come. That's when people move out of cities big time and already are in a lot of ways. Joe Rogan was talking about that, or was it no? Andrew Schultz and this other guy were talking about the dynamic of like, because Joe Rogan's moving from LA, where he's been most of his career and for a long time there in New York, I think. But he's moving to Texas, right? The whole podcast, all that stuff's going to Texas. And one of the things they were dissecting about reasons why people move, or just the generality, especially with COVID, when you're paying super high taxes in a city, part of that, what the benefits you're getting, if you will, someone like Joe Rogan, is you're down the nightclubs every night or the comedy clubs. It's like you're in the scene. It's actually benefiting you because of the culture that's available to you, because it promotes
right,
what you do already or whatever. But with all the COVID shut down, you're paying all these taxes and shit, and you're not getting any of the benefits, the nightlife, the food, the things people want in the cities. So
right.
people are gonna be like, "Fuck it, man! Why am I paying all these high prices in the cities if we're working from home now and all this other shit? The culture's totally died down. I'll just fucking go live somewhere where it's less expensive."
Might as well go live in Kansas and have that fucking like 100 gig Google Fiber. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, no shit, man. Is that what they have out there? Oh yeah, the Google Fiber, right?
Wherever
Yeah, in Kansas.
wherever Google's testing that, it's Oklahoma, Kansas, something like that. They have some test market that has
Wasn't
this absurdly fast internet.
But that was like, that test market was years ago, like 4 or 5 years ago. They're doing one or two cities, and I thought they'd been expanding since then, but I haven't heard much about it at all.
I don't know how much they've expanded. I don't know. I don't know.
Google Fiber
I know I
cities.
don't get a
Sure.
fast enough internet connection where I'm at, and I'm really close to LA, so taxes
I
ain't
know,
worth it
no
if you ain't
doubt,
doing
man.
that. You know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't even
Seriously,
need like a somewhere that was fantastically fast in order to be faster than this place. So
I can't believe
uh,
how slow that is, especially for your at. That's crazy.
yeah, it's pretty crazy. You feel like you can spit and hit downtown LA, but your internet's like the speed of a fucking
WebPass.
turtle.
Oh no shit. WebPass.net. Google Fiber Seattle. It's the first ad that showed up.
Yeah, I don't know.
It
Maybe
seems
they've
like,
expanded under different names and stuff. I don't really know. So, but the real point was like Kansas in the sense that like no one fucking lives in Kansas, I mean, like obviously tornadoes and
yeah.
shit. Yikes. But
Look, so it says you can get here in Seattle, $60 a month, gets you gigabit speeds.
yeah.
It's a yearly plan, or $70 a month.
Yeah,
Wow, no
that'd be great.
shit.
Seattle's pretty modernized, so that wouldn't surprise me.
You would think, yeah. I hadn't even thought about it in years till you just mentioned. I'm like, oh yeah, they started doing that
Kind
a
of the
while ago.
problem
Where the
with this
fuck's that at?
movement though is that Texas is going to get horribly glutted, especially North Texas in the process of
Flooded?
this tons of things they're oversaturated. A bunch of people,
Okay,
that's where they're going to
gotcha.
end up moving. People are recognizing that like the center of the country makes sense for certain reasons. Texas basically has like the best income laws in that kind of space, and then it
Right.
also still has fairly cheap land, especially if people are willing to come off these gigantic parcels that they hold there and like break them down and make money off them, which they probably are. So, nevertheless, like in that stretch of states though, like as soon as you get into like Oklahoma, you're already going like, are we gonna get hit by a fucking tornado every year? You know what I mean? And then same
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
with like Kansas and Nebraska. They deal with tons of fucking tornadoes. And then you're
Oh
getting up to
yeah.
like the Dakotas and shit, and it's fucking cold as shit in the winter. So like that northern Texas is like it's such a little fucking money zone. Now Tesla's moving there with their biggest factory,
Are
and
they now getting out of California?
yeah, Austin's already been like the biggest place for live streamers and for a long time.
Really? No
Yeah,
shit.
internet talent goes to Austin, Texas because it has
Huh.
incredible fucking internet speeds and there's no income tax. So,
Wow, no shit. Yeah.
yeah, and
Can't complain
so
about that. And I'm sure they'll be one of the last states to make you get a vaccine or wear a mask. So you put
they
delay
might
that too.
never agree with that, dude, honestly.
Yeah.
So,
This
nevertheless,
is like a
like there's
better. This is
actually
like a
it's
better.
crazy, man, because I used to think Texas was a shithole, dude. Like my dad's lived there since I was a little kid, like 8 years old or something like that. And I always thought of
Mhm.
Texas as like a shithole. And honestly, like if I'm to look at states to live in right now, Texas might be the way to go, dude. Posting up on like South Padre Island is a little bit spendy, but like it's a nice life. Or
Huh.
fucking, maybe Austin, Texas is pretty solid too. Or you could even like go more up by like Dallas, like little tiny towns that you never think of, like Granbury. Like there's like a couple thousand people that live there, but like it's fucking cool,
The
dude.
gran
Like there's
do the
there's little
cranberries
like
taste like cranberries?
I don't even know if there are those. It might be somebody's last name. It's not Barry,
Yeah.
it's Burry.
Oh,
But
okay. Yeah.
nevertheless, like up by there, I mean, there's like cool places with like little streams, and when you're out at them, you feel like you're down in like fucking Georgia in the summer. You hear
Cool,
like the
man.
crickets and mosquitoes, and there's like hanging fucking
Yeah.
trees and all this cool shit, and like warm fucking rivers that you're hanging out in, and like
Yeah.
little like streams with trees around them, and it's fucking cool. And there's a
Yeah.
bunch of little tiny towns like that. You could probably find a house to buy there and just like own it that was really close to something like this. I mean, like within 5 minutes for like $150,000, you'd own it outright, and it would
Yeah.
be like good size and on like 3/4 of an acre or something. Like
Yeah.
shit's really cheap there, and cost of living's pretty fucking cheap too. And so, like, I don't know, it's actually it looks like a fucking great place to live at this point in time.
No
So.
shit. Way better than here, man. The Seattle police, the city chief of police here wrote a letter. I just saw it recently. Wrote a letter to different business owners and residents, talking about how based even after repetitive trials with the or petitions and with the city and whatever, they are not being allowed to, as of last the 26th or something, not being allowed to use even less lethal weapons such as pepper spray and whatever, so that they literally cannot, because they can't put their officers at risk. The number one non-lethal thing in breaking up a crowd or violence is pepper spray. They're not allowed to use that, let alone tear gas or anything else. So any damages and riots that are going to be coming up here, they can't step in and protect them from that. Like the police chief saying, "Look, we can't do anything. This is because of your city council and whatever," and apologizing to residents. So it's like, and I use this. There's an app called Neighborhood, I think, and you just give your address and whatever you choose, like neighborhood, community boards, and like people, lost cats or shit, but also just people having conversations. And there's an ex-vet and some other people on there actually starting a conversation about peaceful protests and how to do them correctly and how to organize them. They've done many, many over, even like the 70s, and just different, giving suggestions to people and kind of connecting people. So I've been watching that board for a while and talking with them, and it's nice to hear people in the community have a level head. You get there's enough people in Seattle. Like when I was, I posted on Facebook where they said across the street, they said across the street from my apartment downtown, they set these construction trailers on fire where they're building a parking lot. Now the parking lot, it looks like it might be in the vicinity of the King County Jail juvenile detention center there, but it's not. It's a part. My understanding, it's just a private parking lot that's totally unrelated. Well, so they busted in, they put all their umbrellas up, busted in through, use some, I don't know, Molotov cocktails or whatever they're called, and different IEDs, and ended up setting a bunch of these trailers on fire, and then graffitied up like the sickle and hammer and ACAB, all cops are bastards, all that shit, all down like my apartment complex. And the nice thing was it was cleaned up the next day. It was painted over, so at least they're on top of that. But I was talking to there's like 3 different camera crews there. I hung out there for like 2 hours. It was walked off to my place. It was like within the zone. The fire trucks are there putting all this out, and talking with the camera people there, and some of the news people, and some of the cops. And then there was this dude on the sidewalk who, clearly there's something going on. Maybe mental issues, are really, really fucking hard life. Fine, black dude, whatever. But he starts cussing out the cops and calling them racist pieces of shit and whatever, because the cops from some other county, and I think in California, even shot him apparently in the head 3 times and in the body 11 times. He goes on with the story, which, hey, maybe it's true, but he's treating them like they did it to him. And I asked the guy, and he's just yelling, being like completely belligerent. It's right in front of my apartment. I don't know this guy, but it's annoying as hell to have to listen to this. And it's like, dude, what? I turned to him. I said, "What does that have to do with these cops? They're here to put out a fire, helping, just making sure, and the riot stuff was going on. They're not doing anything." He said, "It doesn't matter, man." Blah blah blah. He just started going off, and I tried to reason with him a little, and I'm like, "No, fuck it, can't do it." I said, "All right, whatever," and just turned around and apologized to the cops. I'm sorry, that's not how I feel. I'm glad you're here. And this dynamic, like, Jesus Christ, man, get treated like shit, like you're a racist awful piece of shit because you are a cop. You're a
Yeah.
person, right? Necessarily that cop. Anyway,
I mean, that's a
here's what's
pretty
worse.
racist thing to do in a way, right? Like it's classist instead of racist, but
Yeah, no
going like
shit.
you're a cop, you're a piece of shit, when those cops have nothing to do with it. It's the same thing as saying like, well, you're a black guy, so you're like all black guys, including the one that like raped my great 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 great
Right.
great uncle's wife or whatever. So
Or
you
even
guys are all
someone more
pieces of
gross.
shit, like which is the core of like racism or my daddy's own people like you, so it's okay for me to dislike all blacks. It's the same thing to
Yeah.
say like,
Well,
oh,
here's
all cops are pieces of shit.
here's what's surprisingly worse that surprised me. There were two other kids there. I mean, I don't know. I say kids, but 20s, maybe early 30s, and one might have been some form of ethnicity and white, but pretty white, and then this other white chick. And they're just kind of watching also. When I'm getting kind of confrontational with this guy, just like, dude, shut up. I said, I forgot what I said. I might have told him to shut up at one point. Like, dude, just shut up. Shut the fuck up, man. Um, and these two kids are like, you shut the fuck up. Why does he have to stop? He has the right to free speech, blah, 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 and going to the shit. I'm like, he's not saying
You
anything
shut the fuck up.
productive.
Why does he have to stop? He has the right to free speech.
Really?
After they
They
just
came to
told
the
you,
defense to
look at
him.
that sentence real quick. You
Go
shut
ahead.
the fuck up. He has the right to free
Right.
speech.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No shit, huh?
Really?
So that's
Okay.
like I'm like they're talking, and I said, but what is he saying that's how is this benefiting him? I get maybe he's been through some shit. How is him yelling at these cops that it doesn't matter? He can say whatever I go, all right, when you guys can have adults or conversations like adults, then we'll talk, and just walked away. But I'm like, and these are random kids. They don't know him. And
Yeah.
so I've heard the term referred to as anarchids, ANARKIDS. They're the
Yeah,
white,
which is not good. We
stupid
shouldn't use
social
any of these
justice
fucking things.
those
These
are
are
the
all
social
these
justice
names.
like warrior kids, whatever. That's a mindset that they're not like paid, they're not trained, they're not whatever. There's regular bystanders, but
Yeah,
when they
coming up
see
with these
someone treating
identities like
someone
this gives us the fucking space in which we generate stereotypes, and stereotypes are fucking stupid. You know.
right, well, this is what I was
Some
told.
people are dumb, and sometimes they're white, sometimes they're black, sometimes they're yellow or orange or green or purple or whatever. Like sometimes they identify with not a color at all, and they'll get very angry at you if you call them some kind of color, because they're actually a human, and whatever.
Right,
But like the point is that like the stereotype thing ain't doing anybody any favors, really.
right. But
You
so,
know.
okay, well, whatever you want to call them, is dynamic of a culture of people where their predisposition, their reactionary stance when they see a human being who happens to be a police officer who doesn't seem to have ever met this guy before and he's never met him, calling him this racist piece of shit that he should kill himself, like all the shit. And I ask this guy to just shut up, like, or at least reason with him, like, did he do something to you, whatever, and try to get him to be reasonable to some extent. And they come screaming to his defense
Right.
because I'm asking him to not talk unless he has something productive to say. He's shouting in my ear too. Like, I don't want to hear the shit. Like shit,
Yeah.
man. It's just that whole mindset is just very interesting to interact with, I guess. Put it that way.
Fucking annoying to interact with is what it really is. It's pretty much
Yeah, a little
small-minded
bit.
thinking to just like fucking the whole situation really in a lot of ways, you know what I mean? Like why is anybody involved in that situation anyways? Let the cops put the fire out and go fuck off and go do worthwhile things. You know what I mean?
Right. And
Like
they stood the whole time. They were there for like the 2 hours. Occasionally he'd yell out, but he stood there the whole time until they completely left. I mean, I,
I
anyway, I
got
mean, at
better
one point
things to
he's
do with
telling
my
us,
life, man. I'm not
I
even a big
know.
fan of cops. I've been not a fan of cops for longer than most people who are not a fan of cops. And fucking I don't got that kind of time in my life. I don't understand where these people
Right.
find it.
When he said one point, he said he got I said, I asked, he said that happened. I saw, oh, sorry that happened to you. He goes, yeah, I got a 50, $150 million settlement from it, whatever. And they kept going off. I'm dude, like, why are you bothering them? Why are you still so upset? You have $150 million, bro. Like, go eat your money, man. Like, what is your
Does he though?
problem?
He's got $150 million
No,
dollars, and that's
and
what he's doing with
that's
his
what
time. You know what I
that's
mean?
what I
Like,
know.
come
Well,
on.
so I'm pointing out his own
Oh,
reasoning to him. He
people.
goes, "Why I haven't gotten it yet because it's still in court. It's still in court." I'm like, "Yeah, whatever, man. Shut up. Get the fuck out of here. Like, shut the fuck up.
Homeboy
What
lives
is
in
your
a land of
problem?"
make believe, man.
I know.
Wow.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
I
Weird
don't
shit,
know.
man.
Like that's why you know I think people should strive to be someone, and they should choose what they want that thing to be, and they should be working towards being that. And the likelihood that that thing is in any way, shape, or form aligned with standing there telling someone he's like a fucking racist, whatever, da 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 da, blah blah blah, like this kind of loudmouth shit, like. The likelihood that that's included as like one of the most effective ways for you to accomplish you being the person that you want to be is about zero. So like I just really don't understand what people are doing with their fucking lives when they're doing stuff like this. Like if you're doing stuff like that with your life, like that's the reason why your life sucks. Hey,
You
I
know
hate
what's
to break it to
interesting?
you.
I wonder, like, so it's almost like I guess thinking about it now or looking back in hindsight. So I was thinking I hung out there for about 2 hours too, but I was talking to the news reporters and they were showing me different camera angles. I'm just talking about their gear and shit too. They've got a wireless pack that transmits 4K, like I'm just on a backpack
All
with a
right,
camera
nothing
guy
wrong
from a
with being
coax
down
cable.
somewhere talking to people and shit. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
But
Like,
it's like, for me, it's interesting. I'm learning, like, it's right from my apartment anyway. So it matters to me. This is my environment to actually get firsthand information of what happened across the street, not just hear about on the news or whatever.
mhm.
So, like, I'm talking to them, I'm interacting with them, talking to the police about different dynamics. To me, it's interesting. These other kids, though, and this guy, they're just sitting there waiting for something to be said or to be done so they can have something to be upset about. That's what's weird.
Right.
It's like, why are you still here? I don't, as far as our conversations go, it doesn't sound like you live here like I do. Why are you still here?
Yeah.
Go away.
Yeah. Well,
Mm,
I don't know. I mean, at the same time, though, like people can. There doesn't have to be any logic behind why someone's doing what they're doing with their time. But I
yeah. Or
understand why you don't understand why they're doing it. Like, fucking
yeah. And
makes
I
no
just
sense
say
to
go
me
away,
either.
but it's like, yeah, just shut up, man. If you're not gonna say anything
Shit.
helpful, you just bark out like rabid dogs when you find something to bite at or something. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah. It seems weird to me too. I mean, I'm sure I've spent my fair share of time fucking bitching about something there was no reason to bitch about to someone there was no reason to bitch about it to. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So maybe they're just going through
Different.
that phase. Maybe we all have that phase for at some point and they're in some format where we're
Yeah.
like we want to complain about stuff that's maybe not even
I've
a
been
problem to people that
I've been
can't
there.
even do
I mean,
anything
like,
about it.
stressed out about shit or whatever, and like you're doing fine, and then just some shit goes weird, and you get snippy with someone, or you just fucking, it's like, well, I realized I probably wouldn't have done that, except I'm stressed about all this other shit, and then this shit didn't go right in front of me. You happen to be in my verbal range. Whoops, sorry.
You happen to be in my verbal range.
Or my interaction here. You were a part of this where I have to interact with you, and then things came out more terse or curt or whatever than they would have been if I wasn't stressed out or. But it's different between that and like, or being upset about something with someone in the moment, I guess. Then it's almost like when people are hanging out after a bar, they're half drunk and they're just easily offendable. They're just
Mm.
looking for something to just fucking engage
So
at or something.
yeah, I think a lot. I mean, I've come to recognize in myself that like I'm always the reason that I get offended. It's not
Yeah.
actually ever beneficial to me to get offended, and other people's
Yeah.
opinions don't really matter that much. So I think when we are getting offended, we're always looking to get offended. If we weren't looking to do it, then it would never happen. You know, someone could be like,
There's
"You're a
a,
dumb shit," and you're like, "Okay, that's your opinion. Have a good day."
yeah.
Like it doesn't matter.
Like, there's a book in the church that I read that really helped change my perspective on that years and years ago. I mean, like 15 years ago. But it's called The Bait of Satan. And the bait of Satan, if you're lower nature, if you will, is offense.
Hmm.
Offenses are taken, right? So you can
Hmm.
take an offense, but that's choice. You choose to take it upon yourself as opposed to whatever you need to do, transmute it, let it go, release, whatever. So if you
Yeah.
always have choice over taking up an offense, though, it's always your choice.
Yeah, I mean, like, do you even need to do anything of that stuff with it if you just recognize it objectively as like that's what they think, and thoughts are basically just arbitrary bullshit. Everybody can think whatever they think for whatever reason they think it. It doesn't
Yeah.
actually even have to have logical continuity, you know?
Well, those are
I
those are easy to dismiss. The harder ones are the people you respect their opinion for whatever reason, and
the
they said
fuck do
that
you
they seem to
respect
say
their opinion
something.
for if it's that off base?
Well, no, assuming it's that off base, I'm talking about that. But just when people's opinions it's one thing for someone to criticize you, and that they don't know what they're talking about. They don't know you. Even if like you look at it objectively, like shit, you might be right on. You don't even know me, but that was probably fucking pretty accurate or whatever.
Yeah,
Versus people,
but that's not
or someone
offense.
says shit. Right. So, or someone says some shit that you know isn't true, but you can choose to get offended or upset. It's different when someone you respect or whatever, and they do seem to have logical arguments, and it's still intense or offensive or unexpected. But my point is being the value put on a person's opinion. It makes it, I
Sure.
guess, harder to take up or not take up an offense, or at least being affected by their words. Put that way,
Yeah.
emotionally affected in some way.
Yeah, when we want to make the other person happy for some reason or another, and then they have some conflict with the way that we operate, it's very easy for us to get into a space where we're basically operating like we're offended when really we're just
Mm.
kind of desperate not to offend them. Like I've seen
Yeah.
that happen a lot too with
Yeah.
people that we care about their opinion. Yeah.
Mm.
So.
That's and the other dynamic of like I've talked about with my brother, where we get into certain arguments and it's getting heated because we just know
Mhm.
how to get on each other's skin, or we just do. There's certain dynamics we just do. But then, like when I see that I've got him, when he's so upset that he's out of control, or I know he's not controlling his response, he's more reactive than responsive.
Mhm.
Then I settle into that role of I'm no longer upset. I'm fucking what's the word I'm looking for?
I won.
I'm just giddy. Like I'm giddy. I'm like, oh, I got you. And then
Yeah.
I'm saying things to try to prod him in a way because I know that I can now be the rudder of the ship of this conversation, you know.
Sure.
And then then relax and like settle in that role. But yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. I've had lots of good times with that. That was, trolling people on the internet for fucking days, exactly like that. Because I didn't care about
Yeah,
anything that was happening on there, so the likelihood of them getting under my skin was zero. So,
yeah. And
like,
then you find
I'll
it's
I'll
funny when you
admit when I've
find
been trolled, but there's only been a couple times, and they've been stupid, and like I definitely shouldn't have gotten fucking off my center in those situations, in my opinion. But all power to
yeah
those guys. Like they were successful, they got it done. I respect them honestly because they're able
yeah
to actually get under my skin because it's like fucking impossible. Because really, like especially like internet wise, like I really just don't care. Yeah. I
yeah
honestly I think it might go beyond internet wise nowadays. Like I take other people's opinion into account. I try to learn from it, but I don't really fucking care what it is. If they're like you're a terrible person and I really just like don't agree, I'll just be like, I disagree, but okay, like that's what you think. It's fine.
yeah.
It really just like doesn't bother me at all. And like I don't even I
So,
mean I don't think anybody that I respect their opinion would have any of these kinds of silly opinions about me. And if they did, I might like
yeah.
stop respecting their opinion like immediately. It's
Yeah,
very possible that as soon as they were like, "My opinion is this," and I was like, "That's the most fucking ridiculous thing I've ever heard. I don't even respect your opinion anymore."
yeah.
Like that could happen for sure. I don't know.
So
My
bet,
mom, my mom always used to say like that it takes 1,000 years to earn somebody's trust, but you could ruin it in like 1 second. And it's
I
kind of the
know it.
same thing with this, like kind of, respecting their opinion kind of thing. Like, there's been
Yeah,
a lot of people who I respected their opinion, and then I like watched them make some decisions or have some judgment calls that I was like, yeah, I
right.
mean, I guess I don't
Yeah,
anymore. So,
yeah. I
yeah,
remember like learning
it's
that early on, even in the church. Well, even in the church. Oh, and then we'll actually get to Kevin's comment too, real quick. But like, there's enough pastors that you find out, fucking we're doing some fucked up shit, or cheating on their wife, or and just whatever different shit that you just like, well, not that pastor, not him. You just realize that you're in that paradigm or that terminology is that you're following the Christ in them. So if they are good examples of, or anybody, right, the good examples of any other person, but also understanding they're fucking human, man. So they're not on a pedestal. They've got the same shit. Now, if they're hiding it, that's not good or ideal. That's inauthentic or whatever. But like, it's not an expectation that if they fall or if they fail or something, they're fucking human. And so that it's not so much that you fail, it's what you do with it, right? So like if you're in a position like that, and whatever failing means, doesn't have to be something major like an affair or whatever, but to be open or have a community where, and there were a lot of pastors and dynamics communities where those things were openly shared, so it wasn't held against you. It was something that was just dealt with before it was a big issue, you know.
I'm not sure what kind of stuff was getting dealt with. Like I don't know what you mean.
Well, whatever, like, so because they're having financial issues, I guess we'll make that a practical one. So, like, if they're not balancing their budget or they're doing things with funds, they're not having outside sources look in, and they're going into debt or whatever. So it's not necessarily something that's like immoral, but it's something that is just poor budgeting, and they don't know how to manage their staff or their finances, and they don't tell anybody. So it goes
Mm-hmm.
on, and the church goes into debt. And so, like, let's say worst case
Okay.
scenario, the church has to close because they've mismanaged money because they hid that problem because they think they're the pastor and they shouldn't have that problem. And if they let people know, then they're going to look bad. And like, that's a minor example, but a lot of different things where people in power, people are in places of positions, but that way, especially in a church dynamic, someone that's speaking, that's leading, that's supposed to have their shit together and have their life together. And they may have it together in a lot of areas, but the ones that they don't, there's the fear of being exposed in some way, or it means everything else about them is invalidated, so they don't share those things, and then in the darkness they grow, and then they end up blowing up in some way or another, as opposed to just being open with it from the beginning.
So is like kind of the condensed point of this that like people that you would value their opinions sometimes like just them doing like one thing. It's don't judge the fish on its ability to climb a tree, and
Yeah, so like
like maybe
if
their
they say they
opinion is
fucked up
still
their
respectable.
finances. Yeah, so if they fucked up their finances, I'm
Right,
probably
just
not
don't
going to
take
get their
financial
financial opinion.
stuff from them,
Exactly,
man.
right.
Yeah.
But they might have said other really good shit, or they were like really there for me in a lot of ways and really helped me through hard seasons in life, or like whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't
I
take
think
away
this
from
is like the
that.
lesson of wholesaling again. Like you should never be wholesaling anything. Like
Mm,
a person does one thing wrong and you're like, "Oh, fucking get out of my life." You know what I mean? It better be a pretty
right,
fucking bad thing wrong because the
right,
likelihood that it's like worth throwing them out entirely is probably not very fucking good. You know,
right.
a lot of people talk about the concept of burning bridges, that there's like no fucking reason to burn a bridge, you know, just over like even if you want to diminish the amount of time that you interface with them or the amount of weight that you put on their opinion, like in this case, that's fine,
Yeah,
but there's no reason to like entirely burn the bridge because of one thing. There's not like
yeah.
wholesaling anything is not good, you know, whether it's like I expect this thing to have all of this or it doesn't have all of this, whichever side of the wholesaling that you're doing and throwing it out all the way or keeping it all the way like they go.
What's something that you would, I mean, whether hypothetically or you can think of an example, that where one thing you find out about someone or they do that you would, that's it wholesale with that person, cut them off.
I don't wholesale.
Hmm.
It's not a thing I do.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like
I don't know.
I never
Go
make
ahead.
any knee jerk actions. Like I'm very patient, slow with any kind of decision that I would make, especially with something like that. And I would always see it like, yeah, you're kind of wholesaling this, and I would just manage the engagement. I don't see it as like a black and white engagement. It's a big fucking
Yeah,
graduation of gray to me. So even my like concept, like I love
yeah, yeah.
everybody. I just love some people on the complete other fucking side of town. Like stay over there. We live in the same village. I love you. I'm gonna take care of the whole village. You can stay here for free of charge. It's
Yeah,
great,
yeah.
but like stay the fuck over there because I don't particularly like being around people on like you on the day to day. But that doesn't like wholesale that like I don't care about you as part of the fucking human race.
Well, sure.
You
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. I just mean like someone in your life, I guess, and that doesn't even make sense. But yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean like and when so we say this wholesale thing, like what turns it into wholesale? You know, what I mean, there's definitely like thing that a person could do that like I would not hang around with them anymore. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't spend
Right.
time around them. And if I wouldn't spend time around them, I certainly wouldn't like take their opinion on something. I mean, when the hell am I gonna get it even? You know what I mean? I'd have to spend time around
Yeah.
them to get their opinion. So, like, but I don't. I mean, is it really wholesale though? Like, it's kind of not. It's not like my opinion on them as a human changes at its basis or core. It's not even
Right.
about like them. It's about how do I want to spend my time and what kind of people do I want to spend my time around? What do I want in my life? What don't I want in my life? You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
like, yeah. If somebody's
Yeah.
like blatantly like stealing my shit, I'm not gonna let them be around my shit I don't want stolen. You know?
Yeah.
So that's plenty of one. So I'm not gonna invite that person over to my fucking house if every time they walk out I'm fucking missing something. You know what I
Right.
mean? You're not coming over anymore. I'm probably actually not gonna talk to you at all. We're certainly not doing any business together. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? I'm
yeah.
not gonna trust
So
you
it's
with
just
any of my stuff.
reordering boundaries around certain relationship dynamics as opposed to wholesaling anything.
Yeah, I mean like that doesn't mean that they wouldn't be good for a laugh once in a
Yeah.
while. You know, they probably still would if they were before. Yeah. So.
Yeah. That's part of the problem was you find out all their laughs are fake. All the jokes are stolen. They're not real, and you thought they were real or some
Hey
weird
man, they're
shit.
making me laugh.
That's true. Fair
You know
enough.
what I mean? They're real to me. It doesn't matter if they stole them from somewhere else. I had never heard them before, so it's good enough for me.
Speaking of laughs, or let's see, Kevin said San
This is
Antonio's
like an
nice as fuck.
hour ago or something, basically. Was
I haven't been on it, but yeah, a little while ago.
like 23
We said,
minutes
yeah,
ago.
Austin, I've known about its community and artists and whatnot. And they were talking about that the major scene there has really grown in the last, I don't know, 10 years or whatever. That you were saying the streaming community, but I guess all the artistic community, the comedy club community, and I mean a lot of those dynamics. So I had no idea until hearing this recently.
Yeah, there's been a live performance community in Austin for a long, long time. A long,
Cool.
long time. 100 years or something. So
Yeah.
they're all
Well, it
they're all
sounds like
about it.
it's getting up there with bigger cities now. That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, in certain ways, like their live music scene was better than big cities for a long time.
Cool.
So they have a lot of good live music. So,
I did not know that. So
anyways, it's
now.
about food time for Zachy. I'm very hungry, so
Cool.
I'm gonna go do that thing. Hope everybody
Yep.
has a wonderful night, and you know, explore the stars with your mind and see what you
Mm.
find.
And see, perfect. Great tagline. Let's end on that. It's excellent.
All right, you guys have a great night.
All right, guys.